Hello, everyone. Welcome to Plot Hole Productions, back once again here on the Uncensored Nerds Network. I'm your host, Nate Slater.
And I'm Chris Sambrook, and we're here again with the second episode of The Breakdown, where we'll be reviewing Part 1. All right. So, what we're going to do is, since this is a TV show, we've decided that we're going to do a mid season review and then a final review once the season is complete. So, what we're going to be reviewing is the first 4 episodes of Invincible Season 3, and then we will break down the rest when the season concludes. So, Nate, are you ready? We're ready to dive?
I'm ready.
All right. So, what I'm going to start with is I'm just going to read the synopsis of the episode right from Wikipedia, and then we'll discuss what's going on. All right. So, 3 months after his battle with Angstrom, Mark continues training under Cecil's supervision to gain enough strength to compete with the Viltrumites while avoiding Eve. Mark and Rex tried to stop 2 thieves, Dropkick and Fightmaster, from stealing the Declaration of Independence, but are attacked by Kate's brother Multipol, who tries to avenge his sister's death. Kate and Immortal come out of retirement, while Ray returns to the Guardians. William and Rick encourage Mark to confess his feelings and ask Eve out, but warn against telling her about her future self. However, Mark slips up, leading to Eve to reject him. Doc Seismic breaks out of confinement and kidnaps Earth's superheroes using giant underground creatures. When Mark and Eve try to save the heroes, Cecil sends in Darkwing 2 and Reaniman to help, with Darkwing 2 capturing Doc Seismic. Mark confronts Cecil for lying to him about working with Darkwing 2 and D.A. Sinclair, while Cecil tries to trap him in the White Room, which was constructed to keep him safe from Mark. Meanwhile, Alan and Nolan bond in prison, while the Viltrumites begin testing Alan to determine the source of his newfound strength. So, first and foremost, can we just talk about Mark's strength for a minute? Because we spend a nice chunk of the beginning just watching Mark train to the limits of his surroundings. So not even his limits, just the limits there on Earth. You know, the things that he can lift, the things that he can do, is all constrained by his environment. And then by the end of the episode, we get a bunch of bugs beating the crap out of him that are from Earth.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Just because he's
don't get me
doing all
wrong.
this training.
I enjoyed the overall episode, but it just feels like I know that the idea is to make him like it. Him training is to give us a sense of how strong he is, and then to give a sense of how strong they are. Yet, you know, they just came out of the woodwork, literally came out of nowhere. Like you would think, with all the technology, they would have some inkling of what's going on under the earth. I know, obviously, Doc Seismic has that inkling with his powers or whatnot, but it just feels very convenient for by the end of the episode for Mark and Cecil to be at odds, and yet Cecil now knows about another thing that can beat the crap out of Mark all of a sudden.
That's true. But, I mean...
Because obviously he was using the Kaiju's scream that disabled Mark for the...
That's technically in the second episode.
That is in the second episode, but that is one thing he holds that he has against Mark.
Yeah.
And now he's given all these creatures, you know, with what you can only assume is like this really strong body armor that he apparently can't beat. They overpower him, so muscular-wise, they overpower him. So, like, you know, these creatures are now at Cecil's disposal. He knows about them, knows where to go to get them.
They can penetrate Mark's body, too.
Yeah, they can penetrate Mark's body. They have that venom that messed him up too, knocked him out for a while. So it's like all of a sudden, even on Earth, because they mentioned that he was strong enough to beat at least one of the Viltrumites. So now all of a sudden, Earth has these creatures that can defeat Viltrumites out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, I haven't read the comic myself, so I don't know how accurate that is. But it just didn't feel right, you know?
I agree because the beginning contradicts the end. Like
Yeah,
he does this training to where he's kicking butt, and it seems like he's getting like 138% more strength than what he had before. Apparently, that 138% strength meant nothing.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously it meant something. It probably meant that those things could have crushed him before.
Now, I don't remember, but at the end of the first season when Omni-Man is fighting the Thing, um, it was like in the second to last episode or whatever where the Immortal comes back to help Mark because
Right.
it almost beat Mark, I think, once before or whatever, and they unleashed it on Omni-Man. Was that, I can't remember, was that a creature that was from Earth or no? Because maybe it was also one of those creatures that came from the center of the Earth. It's been a while since I've seen season one,
The the
so
the kaiju, is that what you're talking about?
I think it was.
The one with the scream?
No,
That
oh wait, maybe it did have. Maybe that was the same thing
Yeah, it
from
was
underwater.
the Atlantean kaiju
Okay.
is what they called it.
Okay, yeah, never mind. It was from Earth. So technically, it could have been from underground because it's under the water. It could have been from it within the Earth.
Yeah.
So I guess that would kind of make sense because it was like a creature like that. But still, to show us how much stronger he got, only to have it be worth nothing at the end of that episode, I thought was just really counterintuitive.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it took a lot away from it. Obviously, the main focus for that episode, outside of the Doc Seismic portion of it, was building up Mark to be Earth's big superhero. The new Superman, if you will. He's supposed to, you know, be helping out with raising his brother. He's supposed to also be living this normal life as he likes to try anyway. He's messing up with Eve
Yeah.
with that whole nonsense, and then this stuff just it feels like it came out of nowhere. B, it felt a little rushed. um, I mean, there was a decent build, at least with Doc Seismic, where they kept, watching him and being like, no, he's still in the cell, no big deal. And you learn overall this time he was planning his big escape and had this big plan to kill all the superheroes. But then, even that, how did he know where everyone was?
Um,
From
my guess it was he was using. I don't know. He's Doc Seismic. Maybe he was using them stepping on the ground to figure out. Maybe
yeah,
he
but when they're
just.
in buildings, that doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. I just think maybe he has some power that they decided not to explain, just for to get the plot going. You know what I mean?
I call that a plot hole.
Yeah. These darn plot holes. They're all over the place, even in Invincible. But yeah.
I mean,
So
overall, I enjoyed the episode. I mean, there was decent building. The animation is great, especially with all of the gory scenes that they like to put in their shows. Obviously, in this episode, Mark was tearing through all the Reanimen, um, which is always great, but that's something I'm going to come back to. That feels like they've kind of taken a step back when it comes to this season.
and when you're talking about what you're just talking to, and we will get back to it, we had a conversation, and I thought about it, and I'm gonna give you my rebuttal now that I had time to
Okay.
think about it. But continuing with this episode, the other thing, it was this episode also set up things for the future because we had the two kids come from the future and
Yes.
steal the Declaration of Independence. So when I was watching that, I'm like, what the heck is this about? This makes no sense.
Yeah, and they don't come back to it in the episode. They get away because of Multi-Paul showing up. Which did you see who voices him?
Yeah, Simu Liu,
Yeah, that's great, isn't
like
it?
in Shang-Chi.
Yep. Um, but that being said, it's official. Kate is back. Everyone knows she's back now. Which was great. Having everyone have that jaw-dropping moment, especially Rex.
Yeah,
Poor Rex
yeah,
got the crap beat out of him for that.
he got wrecked.
He sure did. And I will say about Rex, he went from the my personal worst character of the show to one of my favorites. He's one of the few that have had so much character development that he's still an a-hole. He's still an a-hole, but he's trying, you know,
Yeah,
and that makes a huge difference. But it also, it just goes to show like it's that enemy turned friend kind of concept that they like to use. We've seen it with especially in Dragon Ball Z. You have Piccolo, you have
Vi-
Vegeta, you have Boo, you have all kinds.
yeah.
But it when it's done well, it makes a character stand out. It makes a character that much more complex.
Even though he necessarily isn't an enemy, he just wasn't a big fan of
Right. He was just a big
Mark.
d bag.
He's just he's just a douche. Come on. But it's
Yeah.
okay. He's doing some growing this season, and technically had to do with last season with his near death experience, and he lost a lot of people, and he's growing up. He's becoming a man, and he's slowly realizing he needs to step up. So I really do enjoy his character arc so far this season. What else can we touch about here on the first episode?
Well, we also have Oliver
Yeah,
making it painfully obvious that he wants to be a superhero. He really wants out. Wants to break into the family business. He clearly is ill prepared, at least mentally, and that plays a huge part later on.
he's a child.
He's a child, and it's a good thing to explore. I enjoy what they're doing with him. It's like, hey, what if Mark had these powers way earlier on? Would he have been more of a nuisance? Would he? I mean, he still had his dad around, but would his dad have started, grooming him for the Viltrumites earlier? How
Oh,
different would have really have been?
I think he would have, and I think maybe Mark would have been. I mean, let's put it this way: Mark is more like his mom, and Oliver's more like his dad, even though he didn't really know his dad that well.
Right, exactly. And yeah, no, it's something that I've enjoyed watching his brother, and specifically how, like, when you watch it and you look at who he talks to, who he's close to, who he listens to, it is great to see that he still has the restraint, because of he's surrounded by people he loves. You
Yes.
know, he has that restraint with his mom, and that's a huge deal. I obviously it doesn't matter with Mark, but he still has that restraint with Mark,
Yeah.
and it's nice to see that a it shows he's loved, and b it shows the respect that he has for them, and that kind of overpowers the power kind of thing.
Overall, for in my opinion, for that episode, I thought it was a good episode. I just thought it was
Contradictory.
yeah, very contradictory. The thing that I hate about this is that it shows that he's more or less like Huey from The Boys. He's just a,
A punching bag for the
punching bag.
writers. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like he doesn't catch a break. Yeah, even Spider-Man can kick some butt before he you know what I mean?
Right.
I just want to see Mark be able to have his Omni-Man moment in the sense of, you know, he just messes somebody up with not like an important person up without even really taking too much of a beating.
Yeah, no, he does seem to take a beating almost every episode. It's
I guess it's a good thing he's invincible.
yeah.
No title card there. Anyway, so if I had to give just like I, it was good. It was good. I'm not gonna give a number rating because we're just gonna save it for you know,
The end.
the end for the first half type of
Okay.
thing.
All right.
I'm ready to move on to episode 2. What about you?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, so once again, we're going to read the synopsis so you guys can get an idea if you don't know anything. Remember, there's spoilers in here, which we probably should have said at the beginning, but
I think
uh,
they've gathered that with these reviews at this
yeah.
point.
Well, just in case. So, first one's free, folks. Okay, here we go. Episode 2, here's a synopsis. In a flashback, Cecil objects to his predecessor rehabilitating criminals. In the present, Mark destroys Reaniman, deploying to stop him. Cecil activates a device installed in Mark's head, matching the Atlantean kaiju's roars, causing him intense pain and preventing him from flying. Mark flees to the Guardians for help, but Cecil arrives and attacks Mark with more Reaniman, prompting the Guardians to aid him. Rudy jams the signal that is harming Mark, while Cecil, realizing his mistake, deactivates the Reaniman. A furious Mark threatens to kill Cecil should he ever approach him or his family, ending their working relationship. The Guardians break up, with Monster Girl, Rex, Ray, Bulletproof, and Rudy losing trust in Cecil, while the Immortal, Kate, Samson, and Shapesmith remain and are joined by Darkwing 2. Cecil later reflects on his first meeting with Nolan and developing his personal code of doing anything to protect the Earth, while Mark and Eve reconcile and start a relationship.
So I will say with this episode, it had Cecil's flashback, and that was fantastic. You got to see why he is like he is. You got to see, a lot of things, really. You got to, I mean, we saw him in prison for the longest time. A huge chunk of his life gone from prison for standing up for not working with criminals. And then he learns from all of that and ends up doing just that. And, it was a great way to use a flashback. A lot of flashbacks are usually just, hey, here's something quick, here's something that we forgot to mention or whatever, and here you go. Just believe that this happened and everything is revolving around it. But with this one, it's not necessary for the story, but it is for the character. So we got to learn a lot more about what makes Cecil tick, the mistakes he's made in the past, and how he plans to change that. Also, having his first meeting with Nolan was pretty cool too.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it makes me wonder how long ago that meeting was because he was still in his Viltrumite outfit. So was
Yes.
he fighting crime in his Viltrumite outfit before then, and they just now picked up on him, or was that when he first got there? I'm pretty sure it's when he first got there because in the Adam Eve special, we see him in a different outfit briefly before
Yes.
he gets
Yeah.
his, or they talk about. I can't remember. I think we see him in a different outfit, and then he shows up in his normal outfit. No, I correct myself. I think he just shows up in the outfit that he's in now, and they're like, "Oh, you got a new outfit." So
Right. They make
yeah,
mention of it.
yeah. So that's interesting. Before we go any further, I want you to go through what you're going to talk about because what you want to talk about mainly goes with this episode, and I'm going to give my rebuttal, and then we'll continue talking about everything else.
Right. Yes. So it just feels like um, they noticed a trend with the episodes previously where there's a lot of violence. It's definitely something that maybe most of the positive reviews come from because of their hold nothing back attitude towards the fights. Uh, I mean, obviously, in the first season, you had especially the fight between Mark and Omni Man towards the end of that first season, where he holds him through the train. I mean,
Yeah,
absolutely sick.
carnage.
Um, absolute carnage. And then you have, the second season does it well too. They hold no punches for a lot of the stuff, even though that's what Mark is doing most of the time is holding punches. But then, when he goes to the other planet and actually does fight Viltrumites, again, like they hold nothing back. They are just there to destroy. And then this season, it feels like they decided to just put gore in every episode, but in doing so, they take away from a lot. So with the first episode, you have Multi-Paul, and you know that when he starts destroying the Multi-Pauls, he's not trying to kill him completely. He's just trying to destroy the extras, if you will. And it's nice to see the gore and stuff like that, but there's nothing behind it. We know there's no real stakes. Uh, Invincible's not going to get beat on this. The only real stake there was, Rex possibly
Yeah.
dying, which, I'm glad he didn't. But that being said, the gore was kind of senseless in the sense that it was just there for a visual, and it didn't really do anything. And then the second episode, they get, he destroys tons of Reanimen. But again, there's no real stakes there. We know he can do it, and it's just on his path to Cecil. It just feels like they're putting in senseless violence just for the sake of it, without holding any weight behind each fight. And the only thing I worry about is that it becomes a trend and they continue to do it.
Yeah.
Obviously, they have other fights that mean something after that, but the first two episodes, while it was nice to see the gore, it just felt like it was there for gore's sake.
Okay, so I do agree with you a bit, but here's my whole thing. I felt like in the heat of the moment, it made sense for that because Cecil doesn't tell. I mean, it's right for Cecil to not tell anybody because,
Right.
that's how you protect yourself. If nobody knows, you got the upper hand, which was the whole idea about it. He had the upper hand against Invincible or anybody else if he needed to. The issue that I have with you is that you're saying it was nonsense. Was you got to look at the situation. First of all, these things like basically murdered his friend's boyfriend and countless other people. I'm talking about the Reanimen.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and it's more of his link to D.A. Sinclair that he's
Hmm.
more peed off about,
Yeah,
which is fine. But the thing, there's two. Okay, so on both of the counts of fighting, I have kind of a setback. The first one with the multi-pole fight is that it almost felt like he didn't take it seriously. At first, obviously, he wasn't trying to hurt any of them, and we saw that, and that's fine. But when he said, "Screw it," you're about to kill Rex, I need to jump in there. He could fly right through them. He could
yeah,
have got to Rex immediately. He didn't even get to Rex. He didn't even get to him. And for some reason they overpowered him. How powerful is Multi Paul? Like the fact that he was contained in the cell after that didn't make any sense to his fight with Invincible. It felt like his power level fluctuates or something. It didn't make much sense. And then on that same vein, we have the Reanimen. His first problem with the Reanimen was that they were people. He obviously didn't know that they were reanimated corpses. That was something that Cecil tells him afterwards. But he plowed through them,
yeah,
knowing that his friend's boyfriend was like that, and he had to stop him without killing him.
yeah.
So it's almost like he didn't care that they were people and just destroyed them all anyway. So it was just it felt contradictory to the way that he usually thinks.
Okay, yeah. Because I was gonna say in that moment, you know, that Cecil and Invincible were essentially both right from their points of view. Invincible just really hot headed in the fact that Cecil just wouldn't just stop and just if Cecil would have just made those things disappear, just had them go away, and it was just him and Invincible, things would have been different. But because Cecil was scared, really he won't show it, but he was scared. That's why he
Right.
went into the white room in the first place.
Right. And
That
it was a trust thing too, because obviously we know Cecil can't trust anyone.
yeah,
But we only know that because we saw his flashback.
yeah,
At the same time, on Invincible side, he's peed off that Cecil doesn't trust him when he gave him every reason to. He gave up
yeah,
his dad for the planet, and he
yeah,
feels like that should have shown his trust enough. So I mean, I get why they both did the things that they did. It's just Invincible. I mean, he showed it with Multi-Paul at the beginning. He shows constraint for
Yeah,
life in general, even though he knows that all those Multi-Pauls, they didn't need to live.
yeah.
So when it came to the Reaniman, with his history with it, I'm just surprised that he destroyed them without thinking.
Well, he was enraged, and Cecil kind of kept that rage going because Cecil wouldn't just let them back, down. Because there's an exchange between them where Cecil goes, I have it written down here just because like it popped in my head. Cecil goes, stand down and we'll talk it out. And then
Yeah,
Invincible, he's like, not until you admit to everyone what you've done. Basically, kind of saying like, you admit to the people what you've done, basically right now, and then I'll stand down. And then he goes, Cecil goes, and you said you don't do threats. And then Invincible goes, yeah, people change, which is kind of funny because they're both, it was about Cecil changing in the beginning. So it's kind of like they're both in the same kind of standoff, but two different views kind of at the same time. It's weird.
right. No, and they're both well within their rights to say what they say and do what they do. Obviously, we understand that as the viewer, being able to see all sides.
Yeah.
Um, and Immortal also kind of says that too. He kind of brings up, look, kids, you're a child.
Yeah.
There is more to this. You just don't see it. And someone as aged as he is, it's kind of funny because it's two sides of the same coin again with when it comes to Immortal, especially when we
Yeah.
get to the next episode. Um, but or not even next. I think it's episode 4. But um, with Immortal, he has all this wisdom, all this age, and it's all this buildup of all these fights he's been through, wars and all kinds of stuff. But then on the same side, it's like, and he's fallen in love with Kate. She seems kind of childish looking at her life through the 3 seasons that we have, and we're like, what is it about her that makes him go, oh yeah, you know?
And sometimes you just need companionship, Chris.
Yeah, I guess. I
Even
guess.
if it's at a blink of an eye for some people.
Yeah.
But going further into this episode, I don't want to dwell just on that part, but that fight continues from there, and it bleeds into the Guardians of the Globe's headquarters, and Invincible's trying to get help, and in doing so, he kind of brings the light to everybody who's there about what Cecil's doing, and he ends up basically kind of creating a faction and creating kind of his own group without it being his own group.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
we get to see who's loyal to Cecil and who's loyal to what's right. Not
yeah,
necessarily invincible, but just what is right in general. Because we all know that Robot, uh, or what's his name, Rudy,
hmm
um, he doesn't really hold allegiances like that. I feel like his reason for jumping over was Monster Girl.
of course,
I wouldn't say entirely, because
yeah,
obviously during the fight he was like, "Wait, I detect a signal here, so I need to stop this. Something is, going bad with Invincible. He's proven time and time again that he's on our side. There's no reason for us to cause him pain like this," and he cuts the signal.
yeah. So, I mean, I think as far as Rudy goes, I think yes, Monster Girl, and I also think that he's kind of like has the same kind of thinking of Cecil, the enemy of my enemy kind of thing.
Yeah,
So, I mean, because we also know Rudy isn't the nicest person, even
yeah,
though he's kind of like made it seem like it over the past couple seasons now, or 2 seasons now. So, like, yeah, Rudy has his own agenda aside from what everything appears to be on the outside. Um, so we ended up technically getting Teen Team kind of back, even though they're not Teen Team at all now.
right.
Um, in fact, I don't even think they gave themselves a name. Um,
And let's not forget, Eve moved back in with them too, to
Yeah.
be closer to Mark, as Rex pointed out.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, baby steps, baby steps.
Baby step.
Uh, but yeah, so I mean, they've got a team there, and it's nice to see. Although uh, I don't think it's going to be long lived or
Oh
anything.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, at the end of the day, Viltrumites are going to arrive at some point. So,
right, right. So yeah, so we get that. It's mostly between, it's mostly a story between Cecil and Invincible
yeah.
for the majority of that episode. We get a little bit of character development here and there from others, and of course, by the end, um, Mark and Eve decide to start a relationship, which, oh, Mark, he's bad at relationships. He really is. Hopefully, this goes a lot better because of the fact that they're both superheroes. But uh, he's not smooth
No.
by any stretch of the imagination.
I mean, they're still kids. I mean, well, they're teenagers,
Yeah,
but still, you live and you learn. Mark will be living for a long time, more than likely, though. Or who
yeah,
knows? Like I said, we haven't read the comics, so maybe he dies. I don't know.
right.
I hope not, but eventually we all die. So unless you're immortal, but even he dies, which we'll get to
In 2 more
sometime soon.
episodes. Yeah,
Uh, um, I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Oh yeah, and the Guardians end up getting. They lose most of their members, but they end up getting Darkhawk too. And then I'm pretty sure they have the Reaniman there to back them up if need be.
yeah,
But and that's the other thing when it comes to power scaling. Like obviously we did see Mark like rip through a whole bunch of them, so we know that at least Mark's stronger than they are. But
right.
it's funny how it seems like I don't know. I felt like the last episode made them seem stronger than what they were a few seconds ago in this season. So I'm like, I mean, this episode. So I don't
Yeah,
know. Power scaling makes no sense.
yeah. That I think that's their biggest loophole is the power scaling. It's just whatever the story dictates, whatever it needs, is what you get. Um,
Yeah.
which is not a great thing to do, but they do have a strong enough cast of characters, and a, a good overall story, especially with the Viltrumite invasion, for us to ignore some of the setbacks.
Yeah. And wrapping this episode up, I want to say I liked it because you get to see the duality of Invincible and Cecil. And the other thing that was cool is that if you pay attention to when they are back in the Guardians of the Globe's headquarters and he's destroying the Reaniman, it's almost exactly shot for shot how Omni Man killed the
The
Guardians
original
of the
Guardians.
Globe.
Yep, I
So
did enjoy that. Yeah.
so that was pretty cool. Do you have any last thoughts on this episode?
No, I guess just that, Cecil's backstory was very well welcomed, um, and very well done in general. And I think that, if you weren't so much a fan of Cecil to begin with, then that definitely changed the way you look at him.
Yeah, even though he still has a messed up face.
Yeah.
So
Which, watching his skin melt and everything, that was pretty cool.
yeah, that was pretty cool. So Chris, you want to take us into episode 3?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So this one, Mark receives a new suit from Rosenbaum. After getting his own suit, Oliver names himself Kid Omni Man, but Mark advises against it, explaining the destruction that Nolan caused before they join forces to stop Titan from breaking out Multipol. Uh, Eve moves back in with her parents, promising not to use her powers at home if they become more accepting of her duties as a hero. Debbie forms a relationship with her colleague Paul and reveals to him Nolan, Mark, and Oliver's secret identities, angering Mark. The Maulers break into the missile silo, planning to launch an EMP device to destroy the world's communication systems and incapacitate the attacking Guardians. Uh, Mark destroys the missile while Oliver, against his and Debbie's wishes, kills the Maulers, which was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
He reveals to Mark his indifference to killing, believing Nolan may be right, worrying Mark. While talking to Oliver, Mark notices a floating orb like drone spying on the Grayson household, which detonates in his hands as he catches it. Unbeknownst to him, the drone belongs to Angstrom, who survived his previous encounter with Mark. But it also sets him off against Cecil. Uh, that episode was actually really good, and it was nice to see, as I complained earlier about the violence that held no weight, held no meaning. This one did. Now, is there a possibility that the Maulers could come back? Sure. I mean, we've already seen, uh, you know, multiple worlds, multiple, there's a multiverse involved. So there's a
Multiple
possibility,
Maulers.
multiple Maulers. However, it was, as far as this universe is concerned, as far as them with their cloning is concerned, their cycle has ended.
Yeah.
Unless there's another clone hiding like Kate, um, you know, the this did it. This killed
Always
them
leave a
all.
backup. Always leave
Yeah.
a backup.
But yeah, so you want to talk about Kid Omni Man?
Kid Omni Man. First of all, I think the name is dumb.
It
Kid
well,
Omni Man. You should just be called Omni Kid, which I think is what he ends up being called in the comics. I think. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't read them, but I've skimmed here and there. Just because you get bored and you like go down a giant rabbit
rabbit
hole.
hole. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he ends up changing the name because it makes no sense. But if they keep it, it still makes no sense. But yeah. So I do like how you get his. You can't even say teenage angst. He's more like just. I'm
He's
gonna
a
assume
little
he's like
kid
a
trying
9 year
to
old.
Yeah, he's just a little kid trying to understand the world that he's trying to push himself into, the
Yeah.
superhero world.
And the
Uh
thing is, he doesn't know the difference between a normal human really and him, because all he really knows is him and his mom and Mark, and Mark's just like him. His mom, he would never have a conflict with her, so why would he even try and hurt her or anything like that? Even though,
he does have his babysitter nanny
yeah,
woman. I forget her name that Cecil hired. Um, and yeah, I mean, I would think that that's kind of part of his curriculum, especially it being from Cecil. He's going to try to groom him, as
yeah,
is pointed out, to love and respect life, if you will, and that it is needed to protect. Obviously, we see him in that episode. Cecil is the one that approaches him first after he kills the Mauler brothers.
yeah,
Um,
not a
and
good move.
not a good move. He didn't know that Invincible was going to attack him on the fly, though.
Although he
Um,
should have.
he should have, but also in the same vein, he was there, to kind of comfort him. Obviously he has not necessarily been in that situation before with a child, but he's been in that situation before with other superheroes. Best thing to do: de-escalate them, get them away from their violent tendencies, which he was very comforting to him immediately.
Hmm.
Um, tried to explain why everyone else there was dumbstruck. That even for superheroes, it's hard for them to see a kid in this position.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I thought it was a little weird that what's his name? I'm sorry, Immortal was the one that kind of was dumbstruck. You'd think he'd seen it all after everything he's seen, especially being that he lived during a time where kids were at war,
Yeah.
doing nasty, horrible things to other human beings. So, it's weird to see him like that. But I guess he's also been living a ton of time in this time where
Yeah.
it's not acceptable and doesn't necessarily happen often. So I don't know, but overall, for Kid Omni Man or Omni Kid, however you want to call him, I like that they are taking things from his perspective, from a child's perspective. I think he's supposed to be 8,
8 or
and
9. That's what I
yeah,
guess.
when you're 8 or 9 and you have crazy power, and you also at the same time are living a closed off life from everything else, and you've got maybe comic books, and you brothers a living superhero, that's kind of what you wrap yourself up in. So he wants to get from point A to point B immediately. He wants to be a superhero, but he doesn't understand the growth you need to go through to get there.
And it's also scary with him because kids have that me, now attitude because they haven't had time to grow and haven't had time to deal with consequence. In reality, it could go one of two ways. Either he becomes like Mark or he becomes like Omni Man. And the thing is with that, if he becomes like Omni Man, there's only realistically on the planet two people that could probably deal with him at his age, which would obviously be Mark, and the other one would be Immortal. Because Immortal's strong. It's weird because we really don't know how strong he is. I almost wonder if he kind of gets stronger after every fight because when we first see Immortal in season 1, like he gets his butt handed to him by uh, Omni Man. But I think that's partly due to everybody there was caught off guard, and then the second time, Immortal actually stands, you know, somewhat of a chance against Omni Man a little bit. He lasts a little while against him, and then Omni Man just finishes him. So I almost wonder if he's like, kind of like a Saiyan or like Alan the Alien. After every fight, he gets stronger. I don't know. I think the only two people that could deal with, you know, Omni Kid is what I'm gonna call him, would be those two on the Earth right now. Well,
Yeah,
technically, I also have a feeling that maybe if Eve had better control of her powers, she could be the most dangerous person on the freaking planet.
absolutely. Absolutely. I'm wondering when they're really going to get to that because they really should. I mean, there's no way that she doesn't become stronger over time, developing new ways to use her powers and gaining, a greater understanding of how far her powers can go. But yeah, I mean, that comes down to those quick ways she could absolutely destroy things. She could turn the air inside someone's lungs into, a weight.
Yeah,
There's so many ways that she could kill people in an instant. Obviously, she's not the type to go around killing, but if shit hit the fan, I feel like she should have the ability to really, take things to the next level.
yeah, and I also think Adam Eve's special, which is funny. We're getting away from what we're talking about here, but it all links to like future events that could happen and what we'd like to see. Eve can't turn people into things. She can only turn things into like inanimate objects. She can kind of turn into whatever she wants or whatever, but she can't do it to humans yet. And if she can do it in the future, she could annihilate anything
Right.
or create anything, which would be cool. But anyway, all things aside, let's get back to this episode.
Yeah. One thing I did, and I want to mention about this episode is how the first, like, maybe 5 to 10 minutes is completely silent. And they have the two villains. They're not really villains at first.
Yeah,
The two people, super powered, trying to live lives. Well, I guess they start off as villains. They try to, live a normal life, getting a job, trying to live in hard times. And then those hard times keep breaking them down and forcing them to go back to a life of crime. And you get to see all of that unfold with just music in the background. And we get to see, you kind of feel for them. What was it? Like a lava man and a stretchy rap guy.
yeah,
Um, and then you get to even still in the silence, in the soft music, you get to see them get beat down by Invincible and Kid Omni Man. And you also get to see their humanity. That one guy has Kid Omni Man down and tied up, and he sees him as a kid and stops, but then he gets beat the crap
Yeah.
out of him. So and it almost shows Invincible as the bad guy in that
Yeah, it
situation.
does.
And I do enjoy that. I mean, obviously we know that they did bad things, but it's a subjective thing. Did they do the right thing? No, but were they doing it for the right reasons? Sure. That it becomes questionable at that point.
Hmm.
And watching that and the transition. I mean, the transition when they go to prison then focuses on Multipole in prison, which then comes down to you know, they the order wants him broken out. He's their top
Yeah,
assassin, which starts to build into a whole different thing. And the way that they did that, that is a unique and b storytelling at its best. And the fact that they kept bringing out these random fights that really held no weight, and then in this episode they're like, hey, we're going to just flip everything upside down. I did like that. It's nice to see that they didn't just develop a full trend of just deliver nothing until we get straight to the you know meat and potatoes of the story.
yeah. Which I did like that because it just brought everything. The beginning brought the whole story to kind of a halt, but it also kind of gave you a fresh look on other
It
people in the
Yeah,
universe and what they have to deal with to survive with people with powers.
yeah.
Not
It
everyone's
was
a hero.
Yeah, it was world building at its finest. It was, and again, it was all done without any direct words, no direct dialogue. So it was, all visual, and it was compelling. It was
It
compelling enough for you to feel for them, even though you don't know their name, you don't know who they are. You know, maybe if you heard what they were talking about, you would feel a little different. But the way that it was done definitely brought a new layer to the show.
it was really good that it can make you feel something without even a word being said.
Exactly.
Now, Kid Omni is just brutal. Like he pulls no punches. He's just
Yeah. The
I mean,
missile silo.
which
Yeah.
goes down to him not going through experience and not knowing the value of human life. Like he just annihilated the Mauler twins,
Yeah.
which realistically they're not even twins, but just the fact that he annihilated him with no remorse and he just didn't care. He just cared about his family. He cared about his brother.
Yeah.
He didn't want his brother to get hurt. That was it.
He saw things very black and white. He said that's what happens to bad guys. You're the bad guys. And even though the guys, the mauler that had his jaw broken while holding it, was saying, I surrender, I surrender. Um, he's like, too late, and then just fucking destroys him. That was fantastic.
Eh,
But it's going to lead to consequences, of which though I don't think he will fully feel because of the split between Invincible and Cecil. I think that's going to play a whole other aspect of, if there wasn't a fight between the two, I feel like they would have both had their ways of explaining to him how to keep himself in check, that was wrong, the value of human life. But with them being separated like this, it's going to be all on Invincible, and he's bad with women. What does he know about raising a child?
I almost feel like at some point Cecil is gonna get to Kid Omni, and Kid Omni is gonna break away from Invincible and go with Cecil, but we're not there yet. So, to wrap this kind of episode up, we get that kind of little like end credit kind of thing, where there's a whole orb there
Yeah,
spying on him. You know, obviously our first inclination that it's Cecil,
right,
but
exactly.
after everything's said and done, we get to see kind of like a silhouette of someone that we might have seen before and that we thought was dead, and that's obviously Angstrom. So which is kind of like how this whole season kind of starts. He's still dealing with the fact that he killed him, or so he thinks, and that's playing a lot into who he is right now and a lot of the issues that he's having. And it makes me wonder what's going to happen when he finds out that he's still alive. Like, how's he going? How's all this that he's been feeling going to change him? So that's kind of like the last of my take on this episode. I like this episode. I really did. I
Yeah,
think this was probably one of the better episodes. Like, the first one was okay. I liked it. Second one was okay too, but I feel like this one was really good because we got to see a little bit more of
points of
different
view.
kind yeah, different points of view, different kind of drama from the bad guys, how they got to deal with stuff, from the good guys dealing with, rights and wrongs with, their own, dynamic as far as family and stuff like that. And it was good. I
It
like this
was.
one the best
It
out of
was.
the first three. Um,
But
and
on to the fourth, which is my personal favorite.
all right, so episode 4, here we go. Mark asks Rudy to analyze the drone, which he determines originated from Earth and was created by someone with vast resources. Mark confronts Cecil, believing he built it, but Cecil denies it. Later, while on a date with Eve, Fightmaster and Dropkick forcibly recruit Mark and bring him to their future, believing he can save Earth from the tyrannical king, the Immortal. Driven mad by his immense power and immortality, he blames Mark for his eventual abandonment of Earth and demands he fight him to the death to bring him to peace. Reluctantly, Mark fights and is eventually forced to kill the Immortal. Returning to the present, a shaken Mark finds solace with Eve. Meanwhile, Nolan faces execution until Alan breaks free, liberates their fellow inmates, gains Battle Beast's help in fending off the Viltrumites, and feigns defeat to spur Nolan into action. After breaking out, Alan suggests they flee before reinforcements arrive. But Nolan reveals the Viltrum Empire now consists of fewer than 50 pure-blooded members.
And what a bomb to drop. Fewer than 50 pure blooded Viltrumites. The second I heard that, I was like, oh, there you go. There's that mid season, pow, here we go. This is how we're going to move forward. They're actually going to fight Viltrumites. This is fantastic.
I mean, for me, when I heard that, I was like, kind of like, eh. I mean, that didn't really bother me. Okay, there's only 50 of them, like pure-blooded, but they still have, you know, the ones that they spread out through the universe to kind of be their kids and kind of hold control of the empire. So, like, if the kids are loyal to the empire, that doesn't really mean.
Yeah, and they also have all of the planets under their control too. Which, yes, it does get crazy, but let's just look at it this way. You also have A, we have another Viltrumite, the one that Alan was working for.
Yes.
So we have two pure-blooded Viltrumites and two half-bloods. And then you also have everyone else that wants to rebel, all the
Yeah.
other planets.
So yeah, okay. Now that you brought that up, and I had time to think about it, yeah, they're technically everybody else outweighs the main empire, which is 50. And if you get
Right.
enough strong people like Battle Beast Race, I mean, they can go toe to toe. You got Mark, you got Omni Kid,
You got
you got
Alan.
Alan. Even Immortal could stand a little bit of a chance, but I don't know how
Well,
strong these people
yeah,
really are. You know,
exactly. And they did say that, there are worse ones,
yeah,
which, we're looking at Nolan for that one.
yeah.
Like, hey, you need to beef up. You need to get out there because you've got some killing to do.
Yeah, so that reveal was pretty like I said, for me I was just kind of underwhelmed by it. I was like, okay, that doesn't mean they still can't mess everybody up with just 50 of them, but then again, you brought
Well,
it to light
again,
like if
yeah.
everybody they can't take on everybody at once. So that does make a lot of sense.
I also like how he mentioned that they were spread out,
Yeah, so
across the galaxy, across the universe. So it's, I mean, there's two things to look at here. One, they're spread out the thin, so there's a lot easier chance to kill them off. However, we did just learn that Angstrom is back.
Mm-hmm.
There's a multiverse, and in that multiverse, there are a lot more Viltrumites.
That's true. So if he needs Viltrumites to take out at least Mark, he can find them.
Right, and if it's not even that, even I would assume, even in his messed up state, he still doesn't like Viltrumites.
Yeah.
But who's to say he doesn't screw up while trying to take on Mark and invite other Viltrumites in?
Interesting. But
But
still,
these are all speculation. These are all speculation.
but the thing is, I'm thinking about Angstrom as to where, like, okay, he doesn't like Mark. He definitely doesn't like Mark's dad. So why would he even want to try and dabble into any Viltrumites? His sole goal should
Oh, I'm
technically
not
try to
saying
murder
I'm
all
not.
of them.
Yeah, I'm not saying he'd want to. I'm saying it would be him being super hyper focused on trying to kill Mark, like he did last time. Remember how he was just setting up portals everywhere?
Yeah.
What if that happened and he accidentally ran into Viltrumites?
Okay. Now I see what you're saying. That could be scary.
Yeah,
I mean, Angstrom, he is the kind of curveball in this whole situation. Like, what is he planning? What is? I mean, we know he doesn't like Mark. He doesn't like Omni Man. But what is he gonna use them?
what
I
is
guess
he
what.
even really coming back for? Is it
Yeah,
revenge? Because I think he's smarter than that.
yeah. I feel like at this point he should just live his life because he can go to any universe whenever. He could just go to one where he's not there and just live there and be happy. But
Well, he
people
did
hold
also
grudges.
say that this, out of all the universes he went to, was the only one where Mark was good.
Yeah. But then again, like, why is he still spying on him? Like, that's like if he knows Mark was good, and he's been seeing like he's been spying on Mark, so he knows how Mark feels.
Yeah.
So, like, at this
I-
point, what's the point?
is he thinking though that it's all a facade? Like, is he in his head going, "No, he's a Viltrumite. He's just gonna end up attacking that planet and end up trying to take over." And I have to come in here and stop Mark. Is that how he's thinking?
I mean, it happened before, so I mean, in his timeline and other timelines, so for him, it's bound to happen again.
Right.
Um,
It also sparks the question of what happened to make Mark leave the planet.
yeah, in Immortals, like that's my thing. Like maybe Mark left the planet with his family because he conquered it.
Right.
And he was like, "Okay, you take over now." And basically, how I took that episode is he was basically like, "All right, we took over the planet, Immortal. You're the last one alive. If you don't want me to kill you, we're gonna leave this planet, but it is under our control. You're the custodian of it. Take care of it. Take care of its people. And if we need you for any reason to come up with an army to help us, you're gonna help us, or we'll annihilate every single one of you." That's what I was thinking.
Right.
It was one of those type of things. Like it was a bad Mark who lived on that planet, but we couldn't tell either or because of how like crazed Immortal was.
Right. Just begging for death.
Yeah, so I don't know about that. I don't know if it was a bad Mark or a good Mark because it could have been Mark is a Viltrumite, so he probably lived so long.
Yeah, we
Like,
have seen many futures already, you know? So it obviously it's already going to change just down to the fact that he saw it.
yeah. Which is good because this is probably why this Mark stays good because of everything he's going through that the other Marks didn't go through.
That's a fair assumption, yeah.
He didn't have his dad beat the crap out of him. He didn't have his dad fly away. He didn't have his dad come back into his life and kind of change in a way. And, you
Who's to
know,
say though that he doesn't grow old with Eve? They have a family, and eventually she dies, and that
yeah,
turns him.
yeah, that too. You never know. But, yeah, like, and the other thing that goes back to the whole last episode is, he automatically thought that little spying thing was one of Cecil's because you would think that too. He thinks, you know, what's his face is dead. So Angstrom's dead. So
Right.
he's gonna go be like, Cecil, what are you doing? And he's already murdering people inside the
Angstrom
Reaniman
actually,
cell.
yeah. So Cecil already rubbed it in his face too. I forget which episode, but he points out to Mark that he also killed someone
Yeah,
for the
which was
sake of
Angstrom.
saving lives. Yeah, which now we know is not true, unless it's a multiverse Angstrom, which we don't know for sure yet. I'm sure things will be cleared up, but it does appear to be the Angstrom we know. Why else would he be spying on him?
Yep.
Uh, but yeah, he rubbed it in his face. Oh, you've killed someone too. Does that make you a murderer? Oh, I was trying to, save lives. Well, that's what I'm trying to do, Mark. That kind of thing. I think that's the thing with Cecil, right? He likes to twist conversations to prove his point or to get his way.
Yeah. I mean, because at the end of the day, we all understand Cecil's trying to protect Earth as a whole, and he's gonna do what he has to make sure the Earth survives.
He is
Which,
definitely the master at gaslighting,
yes, he is.
though.
Like I said, the whole thing from the other episode, it could have just simple. All right, Reaniman, go away. Only thing, in my opinion, Cecil just had to have the Reaniman go away. Him just sit down and be like, "Okay, Mark, let's talk." That's all he really had to do. But
Yeah,
you know, Cecil can't trust Mark because he's a Viltrumite and he could get torn to pieces at any moment. But that's why you always keep an extra copy.
yeah, yeah, right.
Oh boy! But overall, this episode, I thought this was the best out of all four because we it was a multi episode. It was like double length. We got the Invincible episode, which was funny too because I think how the episode ends is that Mark's with Eve. Yeah, and they're having a little fun.
Yes.
And then it does this whole like, okay, the narrator like, okay, we're not going to talk about this no more. We're going to talk about this over here, and then it goes all the way into Alan and Omni
Nolan.
Man
Yep.
and Nolan. Yeah.
Which I loved. I loved that whole section, especially bringing Battle Beast back.
Mm-hmm.
That was so much fun. So much fun. I think what I love the most about it is how Alan is. He's he's almost happy-go-lucky
Yeah,
in
he
such
is.
the worst situations ever. And there he is inciting a prison break, causing people to basically fight to their own death, not realizing it. He himself could just destroy them, the guards there.
Yeah.
Um, he's just worried about the Viltrumites, and he's trying to find Nolan, who still at that point refuses to join him, refuses to
Yeah.
fight. And, then he comes across, he starts seeing how all the people he's breaking out are just dying left and right, sees this giant door, and is like, oh, I wonder what's behind there. Here's that growl, rips it open. Suddenly, Battle Beast is like, you got someone for me to kill? Got someone worthy for me to kill? Hell yeah. Got some Viltrumites out there too. There's three of them. One of them can't touch. He's a buddy. But the other two, they're fair
Have at
game.
it.
They're fair game. And he's just like, fair game. I like that phrase.
And the thing that has me wondering is like, how did Battle Beast go from Earth and then get picked up by the Viltrumites? And how many Viltrumites did it take to put him in that cage,
Well,
basically?
I think at least more than one.
Yeah.
I feel like one-on-one, he obviously stands a chance. We saw that.
Yeah.
So if there was two, then yeah. But then again, it's like with so many, so little Viltrumites, how are they even able? Maybe they travel in twos, as far as purebloods, just
Yeah.
to ensure the survival.
But then again, we don't know if those two on the ship were purebloods. They were dressed
No,
like,
yeah,
how they dressed, but that doesn't mean that they were purebloods. So the
that is true.
purebloods are probably could be the ones that are like godly in strength. We don't know.
I believe Nolan is,
Yeah.
but yeah. So yeah, seeing all of that as I mean, first of all, how they finish off that one with the double punch
Yeah. Oh my god.
was
That was awesome.
fantastic. That was one of those moments you watch and you're just cheering in your head. You're like, hell yeah, I want to see more of that. And the comedy that follows it of wasn't there another one around here somewhere? Wouldn't he be out here attacking us? And then it just kind of cuts to Battle Beast like taking chunks out of him, biting him, like floating off into space. That was funny. And I like the balance. I think that's why Alan is needed for the show. He creates a balance so that things don't get too serious, but people keep him in check from being too goofy.
Yeah. Which is funny. And he's like, no, we have two. Or I think he even says, now we have two Viltrumites on our side.
Yep.
Or and he doesn't. I don't even think he acknowledges Omni Kid. But
Well, I don't think he even acknowledges uh, Mark.
well, no, he counted Mark when he said that.
Or was he talking about the guy who sent him?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he was probably talking about the guy who sent them plus Omni Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
Because,
no. I think he did. I think he said we got two Viltrumites and then two halves or something like that. I think
yeah.
he did make mention. Never mind. But yeah, that was cool because we got a little bit of one story and a little bit of another story. So technically, it was like we got 9 episodes so far this season. I mean, in total in this season, we're getting 9 episodes, even though one was like episode 4 was a twofer.
Yeah.
Um, overall, this episode was excellent. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
No, what I believe is happening is that the first two episodes were building episodes, and the problem was there wasn't enough action. I think that's why we saw the random senseless violence.
Yeah,
That's why we saw those bugs show up out of nowhere. But at the same time, those bugs they have to come back just because of their
Cecil.
properties. This Cecil, the properties, like they also stand a chance against Viltrumites now that we know.
Yeah,
So you can't just ignore that. When it comes to the second episode, I don't know. That was more backstory, I feel, than
yeah,
anything, which is fine. It works. And, still getting into the whole Reanimen. I don't know if they're going to be viable to continue. I mean, Mark plows right through them, which means everyone else would too. So maybe oh my God, what if he decides to reanimate those bugs?
that'd be
That would
weird.
be, it would be weird, but it would be worth it.
I don't know. Well, yeah, but I don't know if that technology would kind of work because it's fine for people because it's a little bit. They would have to have a lot of like moving parts for that kind of thing, I guess,
Yeah,
because they're
they
bigger
would.
creatures than a human.
But we're getting into more high stakes fighting. So they will need help for sure.
And as far as high stakes go, like I don't. All right, because we're getting to the end of this video. We'll do a prediction for like the next 4 episodes. What do we think, or maybe even the end of it? Like, what do you think is gonna happen by the end of the season?
Okay. So what I want versus what will happen. Because I want Oliver to finally pick a side, and I feel like everyone else is getting the same vibes. He's going to be evil at some point.
That's what
If
I'm
not,
getting.
if not evil, he'll at least be an anti-hero kind of thing.
Yeah,
I, however, don't think it will happen this season. I feel like that's. I mean, it may plant some seeds, but I don't think he's going to go full evil. mainly because he's still a kid. Unless there's a section where he ages real quick. But I don't think they're going to do it as a kid. That being said, I don't know how long it's going to take for Nolan and Mark to be reunited. I don't think it will be this season, but I think it will be kind of the plan, by the end of the season. Hey, I need to find Mark, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, um, I'm not sure just because of, I don't know, the distance between where they're at. Also, they're focusing more on earthly issues, although Omni-Man is a main character. So I feel like it would be too much of a problem to exclude him for the rest of the season, So we have to see some more of that story. We're going to have issues with Mark and Eve's relationship. It has to happen.
Yeah.
Mark's too much of an idiot when it comes to girls for that. So he's going to be probably the cause of whatever issue that pops up. I feel like we're going to get a lot more from Rex and the teens, if you will. They're not really teens anymore, but I don't know about Guardians of the Globe. I mean, obviously, they had their issues when everyone left, and they were set up against the Mahler brothers. They didn't really succeed in that. They needed help. So, even with Darkwing 2 there, I don't think it's going to work for, as the Guardians of the Globe for very long.
Yeah.
So, either the teams get back together at some point, or it just falls apart completely and there's no more Guardians.
Yeah.
Something like that is likely going to happen. Cecil, I don't see him dying off anytime soon, but he's going to get close, especially with how much he's pushing Mark, and it's clear that he wants to get close to Oliver.
Yes.
So we're going to see a lot more confrontation there.
All right. My little thing, what I would like to see, because it's what I'd like to see / prediction, is like by the end of it, I don't know how you could end this season. Obviously, this season's going to be a giant cliffhanger kind of thing. I would like to see it end to where, obviously, the Angstrom thing was probably going to be tied up by the end of the season. I also would like, which that's going to happen regardless, but what I would like to see, which could happen as like, maybe they'll do another double episode or whatever. Probably this is what's going to happen. Alan takes Nolan to meet this other Viltrumite. They have a conversation, and I think Alan and Nolan are going to go on kind of like a cosmic kind of thing to try and hunt down...
Cosmic Crusade?
Yeah, Cosmic Crusade. And Alan and Battle Beast. All three of them are going to go on some sort of crusade to where they're going to probably slowly try and go and find the remaining Viltrumites and try and take them out one by one. I'd like to see that woman Viltrumite come back and follow up with Mark and be like, "Yo, so what's going on?" And then Mark ends up actually, like in the last episode, Mark ends up fighting her, ends up beating her, and decides not to kill her, kind of thing. Like, but he actually wins the fight, and basically she doesn't leave. She basically, one of two things that I could see happening is he beats her, and then she tells him to kill, her to kill him. He doesn't. She leaves, and immediately, like, because that's kind of like towards maybe the middle of the whole beginning, towards the middle of the episode, she leaves, and then at the very end, she comes back with like a ton of Viltrumites to take him out, and that would be the cliffhanger for the episode. Or the other option is he ends up getting ready to actually kill her, and they show up and stop him, meaning the Viltrumite army stop him before it happens, and then it cliffhanger there. But go ahead.
But the only issue I have with that is if she goes back to them, it means she lost, and you know what they do to weakness.
Yeah.
So yeah, they may show up, but I don't think it would be with her if that were to happen. Also, on the same side, she would want to die in battle, so she would probably be coaxing him to kill her. And with him saying no, there's a possibility she'd kill herself.
Yeah. I mean, I still think she would go and tell them, be like, "Yo, he's stronger now. He's not going to do
Right.
this." I think she would do that knowing that she's gonna die, but she's doing it honorably in the fact that she's telling them what they need to know, and then they kill her or whatever. But that's what I would like to kind of see happen by the end of the season. I have a feeling it's not going to go that way because every time you think it's going to go one way, it goes a completely opposite way. But I would like to see at least the Viltrumites come back somehow or some, by the end of the season.
Right. Yeah, no, I could see that happening. I'm hoping we see a lot more of the Viltrumites on their end, because we've already set a tone for seeing the other side of the coin, you know? So I'd like to see a little more of their story, give us a reason to root for them so
Yeah.
that it's harder when we come to the main battle. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, I know there's a lot more that we're going to see outside of even all of that. I mean, each episode is a standalone episode. Each episode has its own premise, its own themes. So we have a lot to go. I mean, we
Yep.
already know that it's been renewed for season 4 for sure.
Yeah.
And it looks like they are interested in expanding it beyond that. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but the live action movie that actually went into production before the show even started is still being worked on. They said
Yeah.
that the most recent updates is that it is going to be separate from the show, but it is going to be following the same storyline. And they're learning from the show, which is helping change and develop the live action movie. So
Awesome.
I can't wait to see what happens with that. I don't even know if they're at the point of casting. It's kind of weird that it's taken so long. I think, what was it, 2017 is when they started that project. And, it still has Seth Rogen as one of the producers for it.
Maybe
He's
he'll still be Alan the alien. Maybe they'll
that,
make him a CGI character and just have him do the
yeah,
voice.
that I'm hoping for that. And I'm thinking that's exactly what they'll do. Who they will cast for the other characters, I don't know, but
I mean, it would be obvious to have Steven Yeun play that character, but he's like I think in his 40s now, so they'd need
yeah,
someone younger. So, but
exactly.
I think for Omni Man, you have two choices in my opinion. You got either Henry Cavill or John Hamm. I mean, John Hamm makes most sense because he's older. So I
And
think
he
he'd be
starred in the
perfect.
show before as a guest voice.
Yeah, I think he'd be perfect for the role of Omni Man. Or wild casting Jeffrey Dean Morgan Negan
Yeah, yeah, that would work.
because
He's
he's got asshole written all over him.
he can do that. Yeah, he absolutely could. I would like to see that.
So, um,
Yeah.
any last thoughts?
Uh, no, I am tapped out. This is one hell of an endeavor, the Invincible project. So I'd like to just see them keep spitting out masterpiece after masterpiece.
Same here, and I look forward to the other half of the episode, and I look forward to doing this again with you when it's over.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I said episode, I meant season, folks.
Yeah, the season will be ending likely by the time it ends. Um, we will be ready for the next bi-weekly episode of the breakdown, so it may come out right away. We'll see. We'll see if we need
Yeah.
time to really break it down or not. But either way, it will be bi-weekly, so you guys will be seeing new episodes from us every 2 weeks. And if it isn't a TV show, it should be a movie. They may be split apart, obviously, since TV shows tend to run over a longer period of time. So we may have a part one and then something else in between, and then a number part two. We'll see. We'll try to keep things as uniformed as possible. But either way, thank you guys so much for watching. I would say that concludes this episode. What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode of the breakdown here on the Uncensored Nerds Network. Thank you guys once again. You can always reach us on our Instagram at Plothole Productions. If you want us to review something specific, like we've said before, just let us know. Send us a message, and we'll take a look at it, and
If
we'll
it's
see if
compelling enough,
yeah.
we will do it. Not that we don't have a ton of ideas, because we do, but we want to know what's on everyone's mind. If everyone really wants to see something, we will cover it.
Yes. And don't forget to check out everybody's links for their merch, their whatnot, eBay, and Shortbox. You can also check out the Uncensored Nerd staple shows like Random Nerdy Podcast and We Got Issues, the Comic Com Podcast, Ben Temple Smith's Squidcast, Beyond the Cape, and many more coming soon. Once again, I'm your host, Nate Slater,
And I'm Chris Sandbrook
and we'll catch you
in
in
the
the
Void.
void.